Nigeria unveils a 10-year agricultural plan at UN summit.
IGP Egbetokun warns police personnel against compromising public safety.
And lawmakers probe MDAs over anti-corruption compliance.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we discuss emerging issues around the country's electricity tariffs.
All right, so once again, the issue around electricity in Nigeria has been thrown up. This time it's taken a new turn. It's the Enugu state drawing attention after reducing tariffs for band A and B consumers from 209 naira down to 160 naira per kilowatt hour.
Right, but the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the NERC, has stepped in with a reminder that states cannot unilaterally adjust tariffs for power sourced from the national grid unless they are willing and able to cover the gap through subsidies.
All right, so next concern is that unless the full cost of generating and transmitting power is accounted for, the stability of the entire system could be affected.
And on the other hand, Enugu insists it is responding to local economic realities and doing what it can to support its people.
So it's a delicate balance between federal government oversight on one hand and the growing state-level responsibility on the other.
Meanwhile, many Nigerians continue to express frustration over rising bills and inconsistent supply.
And that's a broader issue across the country, from Abuja to Lagos, Kano, and Maiduguri. Households and businesses are navigating the same struggle, high cost, but of course, unreliable power supply.
Now, with the new Electricity Act giving states more freedom, the big question is whether this flexibility will lead to better service delivery.
Or simply add to the challenges already in the system. And that's our focus today on Good Morning Nigeria and its midweek's edition. I thank you once again for joining us on the program. I am Claire Adelabu Abdurazak.
And just to ask, on what band are you?
I'm on the
Bandless?
What band now? Hip hop band.
Hip hop band. Okay, I'm playing the bass drum. That's the band I play. Well, I'm Victor Azum. We thank you so very much for joining us. You are watching us live on the network service of the NTA. Chukudi Kolubaja will be joining us soon enough for the newspaper review. But first, let's head over to Comfort Amodu for today's top stories. Good morning, Comfort.
Good morning, Victor and Claire. Good morning, Nigerians. The Nigerian government has unveiled a 10-year strategic action plan 2026 to 2036 to transform its agricultural sector at the ongoing UN Food Systems Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Vice President Kashim Shettima at the event emphasized that the youth-led innovation will be central to the country's food system transition initiative.
Nigeria has journeyed with a clear compass. We have pursued institutional reforms with vigor. We have rolled out targeted investments in infrastructure and human capacity. We have deepened partnerships across sectors and prioritized agro-industrialization as a key driver of inclusive growth.
22 lawmakers from the governing All Progressives Congress and one from the opposition Labour Party in the Plateau State House of Assembly have paid a solidarity visit on the National Chairman of the governing All Progressives Congress, Professor Nantawi Yilwada. And the National Chairman also played host to members of the League of APC Professionals. A newly reconstituted Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission has fixed Saturday, 30th August 2025 for the local government council elections in Rivers State. Chairman of the commission, Dr. Michael Odi, announced a new date at a stakeholders meeting and unveiling of the revised timetable for the 2025 local government elections. And the federal government delegation of Northern Extraction has emphasized a peaceful transition of power between the North and South as a strategy to sustain ongoing reforms in all sectors and promote unity in Nigeria. This was at a session on government citizens engagement by the Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation in Kaduna.
Investing in human capital is at the core of our priorities. Government remains dedicated to revamping the education and healthcare systems and enhancing social welfare programs.
We have come here to lay down all those things that the President said he was going to do, where we are on those promises, and many of them have already been fulfilled.
Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has donated a sum of 1 billion naira to victims of communal clashes in Benue State. She made the donation on behalf of Renewed Hope Initiative in Makudi during a condolence visit to the state. Nigerian's Diaspora Commission has taken note of a disturbing video circulating on social media showing a protest by some Ghanaians calling for deportation of Nigerians from Ghana, citing concerns over their behavior and attitudes. In response, Abike Dabire-Rewa, chairman of the NIDCOM, has condemned the blanket outrage against Nigerians living in Ghana, emphasizing that Nigerians are not criminals and are good ambassadors wherever they reside. She called for calm and advised Nigerians in Ghana not to be provoked or engage in violence as the matter is being handled at the diplomatic level by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Bianca Ojukwu. Dabire Erewa also cautioned against the use of insightful language on both sides, which could escalate the situation. She advised Nigerians to disregard videos circulating about alleged attacks on their shops and properties in Ghana, citing a lack of evidence. And the NIDCOM chairman praised the efforts of Ghanaian and Nigerian High Commissioners in controlling the situation, and noting that the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs has also been in touch with Ghanaian authorities, taking proactive measures to address the issue. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, has withdrawn the indigenship bill before Parliament to allow for further legislative consultations. And the bill, sponsored by the Deputy Speaker and 6 other members of the House of Representatives, sought to alter 1999 Constitution as amended to guarantee indigenous status to persons by reason of birth or continued residence for a period not less than 10 years or by reason of marriage. In a statement on Tuesday night, Kalu, who doubles as chairman of the House Committee on Constitution Review, said the withdrawal of the controversial bill has become necessary despite scaling second reading in light of constructive feedback received from various stakeholders. That's the news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Claire and Victor right after this break.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we swear in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Diversity is unique, we are more than the solution. We are Nigeria, strength and unity, we know they carry life. We are Nigeria, together live the dream.
The Real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
My name is Joy Odagi. One man just called me one day, I did in my house, so I shocked. I say, my man say na 419. How they go call me? Say I register. He said, make I call my mark. Say, make I call collect my, with NIM, make I call collect my ATM card. Call collect money. Now me I go with my husband, he say now 419. I reach there, he say, he real. They pay me my 75,000 naira. I use the money for my business, eat for inside. Teach one person how to make food. To get the card, you need NIN.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Net's Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
My husband's germ-filled journey to work and the sweaty journey back home. What else can give you all-day long protection?
Germs are everywhere, but the Toast 12-hour protector shields your family every day. That's be 100% sure.
Nivea Black and White deodorant, now with 72-hour protection. But what does that mean? 3 cities in 3 days and no fear of sweat and odor. 120 dances with skin as smooth as the moves. Sweat, stain and odor protection. Nivea Black and White deodorant. Skin is for embracing life. Nivea is for skin.
Mamalicious bomb. Maliciously good.
Maliciously good.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
I thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. It's time to take a look at what's making headlines across the nation this morning.
All right, Chukwudi Okodubaja is right here in the studio. Chukwudi, good morning and welcome.
How are you?
Yes.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
He's here as well.
Yes.
Hello.
He's here.
Hi. You're returning rebellion for.
Okay, let's quickly start.
How are you?
I'll quickly take a leadership newspaper, and the leadership leads with Northern governors defend Tinubu as ACF says he's unfair to North. That story is on page 4. It has some riders there, and you see the picture story of the I think that was the event that took place yesterday in Kaduna, if I'm right. Just below that, Kebbi approved 6-month leave for pregnant female workers. 6-month leave for pregnant female workers. Other stories trending. 9 million motorists drive on Nigerian roads without insurance. And Deputy Speaker Kalu withdraws indigenship bill for further consultations. And IMF raises Nigeria's 2025 economic growth projection to 3.4%. And just above the nameplate there, you have bandits driving us away from our farms, plateau farmers. All right, Victor.
All right, I have the business NG next. And the lead story here reads, tensions rise over Ghana deportation threats. FG urges calm. And just above that story, the tiny red strip, Yahoo Mail users to start paying monthly as firm slashes free storage to 20 gigabytes. That's on page 2. And just above the nameplate, Ribadu, insurgency, banditry declined under Tinubu's government is on page 2. And on page 5, IMF upgrades Nigeria's 2025 growth outlook to 3.4%. Right. Let's now move over to the People's Daily. And the People's Daily leads with this political story. Ex-Governor Aliu nots challenges rooted in elites' complacency, institutional neglect. All right, that story you can find on page 5. And just above it, you have the double 92 MDAs yet to establish anti-corruption units, 127 ineffective. That's credited to ICPC, and the story is on page 4. And the other, Tinubu OK's automatic jobs, scholarships, cash awards for 200 NYSC honorees. You can get details of that on page 5. And at the bottom of the front page of the People's Daily, quite a number of stories there. Audit report, Senate gives NNPCL 3 weeks to respond to queries on 210 trillion naira. Interesting. And on page 7, Barrow Port probe, lawmakers summon minister, Niwa MD. On page 3, Tinubu's government will not leave any region behind in development. That's credited to Akume SGF. FG prioritizing dialogue, flexibility in tax reforms. Others is credited to VP Shetima on page 2. And finally, FG to revive moribund Kaduna textile industry, says SGF. And you get details of that on page 9. Chukwudi.
FG to revive Kaduna moribund textile industry. When they say that, you go nostalgic because of the days of Ankara, the days of Kente and all that, those fabrics. My mother mentioned many of them were coming from home. We were not importing them. You keep asking what happened to us. And it seems to have spread to every facet of life. That's the sad aspect of it. Complaints. Northern governors defend Tinubu as ACF says he's unfair to the North. What I don't quite like about Nigerian politics is that the ethnic card surfaces so easily. Integration in Africa is a tall order because there's a way we think. I think people should talk about development or absence of it in more global terms without making it an axis of the earth kind of thing, a particular region kind of thing. That's where I fault the language of Nigerian politics. But the governors are saying, oh, no, he has done, he has fulfilled promises made to the north. That's Chairman Northern State Governors Forum. So some people are saying, you're not working. Some are saying, oh, you're working. African politics is a ding-dong affair. Some of it is all, geared towards 2027, really. Politicking has become all of it, or maybe more than all of it, So you keep on asking, why does the language never change?
I think the change should come right from the politicians themselves and at the base of campaigning, because that is where you find the candidates, making these promises. Okay, we will do this. Now the North is saying, look, he has fulfilled or not fulfilled promises made to the North.
Yes.
Which means during the campaign or the party manifesto, there were specific promises made to a particular region. Yes. But it shouldn't be so.
That's the point, Claire.
Yes, it shouldn't be so. No, your promises should be to Nigerians.
Spread amenities fairly. Let it be seen that a transparent process of distribution has happened. Don't regionalize it. Exactly. The language destroys the spirit.
No, I'm saying it from a different perspective. Yes. For instance, if I'm correct, when you go to campaign, if people have issues with water, and you say, oh, for you people, I will provide water. You go to another area, they have issues with roads, and you say to them, I will give you roads. I mean, you could do that.
It's in the messaging.
You see, she took it from my lips again.
Yes.
A politician comes to deliver projects, infrastructure, to grow the people. So those things will always happen. But the language you use regionalizes it, and at a point it becomes acid to the rest of the country. Africa suffers things that it can easily avoid if it changes its communication. That's the point.
Yes, and that's
what's happening in Ghana now. I don't think Southeast people in Ghana are really, interested in taking over anywhere.
Chukwudi, I think that story is also here.
It's also there.
Yes, you may.
How do you communicate your success where you are? Africa still has very, very raw nerves, sensibilities you have to respect. Nothing like no man's land enough on any patch of soil of Africa. We are still potently ethnicists. So you must mind how you behave on another man's soil. Africa is like that. In New York, they're not going to notice a group of Africans who are wearing masquerade clothes on the sidewalk. They'll ignore you.
Chukwudi,
in Africa, they won't.
Chukwudi, I agree with you, and more so that the essence of ECOWAS was to achieve this integration.
Integration, Claire.
Unfortunately, the younger generations probably have no idea or have little knowledge
of where we are coming from. And it doesn't bother them.
And the essence. And ECOWAS protocol, free movement, has done a great deal to, to drive that.
We have done it now.
Yes. So all of these things just show or manifestations of the ignorance of the objectives.
And lack of continuity.
Of that program. So our leaders must do a great deal. It's either some of these instruments are taught in schools now, or you find a way to teach the younger ones.
From home.
From home, that there is a reason why we are called Africans. Yesterday we had a program
Thank you, Claire.
We had a program here. And a lady from Barbados, I don't know how you're going to call me now. Barbados came here and said, look, we've all traced our, origin back to Africa. We are all Africans, so we are coming together under an umbrella they call Mother Becon's Ikpada Initiative. To see how they can bring back, Africans
whom we were. I keep talking about it here. When I hear analysis on Nigerian television stations and all that, something keeps telling me they're missing the point. till we go back to how we were. We were welcoming to people. What happened somewhere? How can we correct those things? And it's a humanist attitude. I keep on saying, see a human being before you see a tribesman. That's where to start from. And the home seems to have collapsed. Mom and dad are chasing sustenance. And the children are picking up habits that do not quite make them good neighbors of the man next door. We have to try, because where we're going is self-liquidation.
I know, but Chukwudi, I know that you have harped on.
I keep talking about
our
it.
attitude
Yes.
as Nigerians outside this country. Be that as it may, the event in Ghana, has also been received with anger and outrage by so many people, because you have termed generality of Nigerians as criminals with the placards.
Exactly.
You saw, this, and NITCOM chairman.
Our elder sister,
yes,
spoke about it just yesterday also.
Precisely.
She was quite clear about it.
But also caution. I mean, Nigerians, we are hospitable, we are patient, we can be calm. And don't forget that we are still the big brother of Africa. No matter what others may do,
yes,
we cannot be drawn
into
the bandwagon.
But I hear that some of us fight on the streets of China.
No, but whatever that may be, I mean, we're humans. You will have the rotten
so
eggs.
well.
No,
I allowed you to take over the analysis because you were doing better than me.
No.
But don't go, we are humans.
No, but you will have...
A good man knows his limitations.
Chukwudi, when you buy
you
a
must know your limitations.
When you buy
Clint Eastwood said that to an overzealous police officer before
reviewer.
he bombed him to death.
I'm not the reviewer, so let me
You
just
must
keep
know
quiet.
your limitations.
Yes,
a good man knows his limitations.
Okay, thank you, Chukwudi.
So, whatever we think we are, we must know our limitations wherever we are.
I agree.
Communicating who you are matters a lot. Strategic communication requires so much from you.
Just
but
that everybody wants to
don't
be
play
the
so
same.
well. I must applaud
Everybody won't be the same. Some people will still be irrational.
That is why I was saying, if you
it doesn't make it right.
Chukwudi,
it doesn't make it right.
If you buy a crate of egg, I'm sure you will find one or two that's not the same.
But the Jacksons will tell you, one bad apple doesn't make the whole bunch bad. Hey, I was good when I was young.
Are you singing in reverse? Okay, just before we go, one last thing. The deputy speaker,
yes,
has withdrawn the indigenship bill for further considerations.
Yes.
And if you know what the clause, the indigent clause in the Constitution,
yes,
what it has done or what it is doing in terms of fueling ethnic issues,
yes,
you'll be amazed. And a lot of people have said, let us look at that clause again.
Rework it.
So in the wisdom of the speaker, the deputy speaker, thank you, following the advice, according to him, he has withdrawn that indigenous bill.
Yes.
Because, and I think they should look at that part of the Constitution that has that indigenship and do something to it.
I think it's aspects. The
because
problem is with
people are implementing it, diverse ways, in the ways
they interpret.
With their own peculiarities
coming in.
Exactly.
I think the problem is with aspects of that particular bill. Not a terrible bill. It's something that you can look at the aspects that are raising concerns and work out and return.
Do they still teach civics in schools? Victor, I am nothing without you and Claire. I find the expression, when I am compared to your existence as my fellow human beings, people should know that. We find definition because there is one Omotosho, one Ikechukwu, one Hausa man that we can compare our lives to their lives. That's the only way we can find definition for ourselves. So we need one another all the time.
I think they teach civics. It's what I'm not sure of is the depth of what is taught these days. But let's thank you very much. I see you are in the mood for dance. Please dance away. We appreciate your time and we'll see you tomorrow.
You know whether I don't chop.
Newspaper review is we are done with newspaper review, and Good Morning Nigeria continues after this break.
I like to put the confusion.
pleased to announce encouraging news from the National Bureau of Statistics, which released the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, for April 2025, only yesterday. According to the report, the headline inflation rate for April stood at 23.71%, this represents a decrease of 0.52% from the 24.23% recorded in March 2025. Similarly, month-on-month inflation dropped by a notable 2.04% from 3.90% in March to 1.86% in April. This, of course, did not just happen by chance. The President is focused and is determined, and his determination and his interventions are clearly paying off. The benefits of reform, though gradual, are real and measurable.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
We're not in a romantic relationship, we're in a dash.
Brotherly relationship.
Friends with benefits.
Yeah, very bad boy.
No. Family relationship.
Who be your family?
Situationship.
Are you in a situationship?
It is well.
Survey says... Hey!
Onenge is my girlfriend.
You want dodge? Thank God. Say I hacked. An oversized shirt is okay to wear, but an oversized dash isn't.
Skirt.
Bra.
Shop.
Pants.
Name something you add to your text to make them more interesting.
Emojis.
Stickers, pictures.
The way my back at the breathing, at the yara.
Gifts.
Survey says.
My birthday.
Hey, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. Cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live, excuse me, on the network service. All right, we told you that there are fresh developments around Nigeria's electricity tariff, and that's our focus today on Good Morning Nigeria. So before we begin our conversation proper, let's listen to the background report put together by our correspondent, Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
In a country where access to power supply is still a pressing need, the conversation around electricity tariffs has reignited, with states now challenging the status quo. From Enugu to Lagos and Kano to Maiduguri, households and businesses say they are paying more for less. Electricity, promised round the clock in Band A, now flickers like a candle in the wind, yet the bills arrive steady, climbing, and unforgiving. In Enugu, the state government dared to step in, cutting Band A tariffs from 209 naira to 160.4 naira per kilowatt hour, effective August 1. It was a bold move aimed at relief, but one that sparked tension. Nigeria's power regulator, NERC, swiftly warned, subsidies cost money, and those who cut must pay. The deeper concern isn't just about who controls the switch, but who bears the burden. The federal government is already reeling under a 4 trillion naira shortfall in the power sector. And now, states wading into the waters must ask, can we afford the ripple effect? Meanwhile, supply continues to dwindle. In Kano, factories struggle, paying 206 naira per unit, with profits swallowed by diesel. In Kaduna and Borno, small businesses now survive on generators. And in Lagos, citizens ask, why Band A when the power barely lasts a day? Across Nigeria, over half of all registered customers are still unmetered. That means estimates, sometimes inflated, sometimes unfair, fuel more than just frustration, they fuel distrust. Yet, amidst the darkness, some see possibility. The Electricity Act now allows states to generate and distribute power. Enugu, Plateau, Lagos, and others have taken the legal step. The question now is, will policy translate to power? Real, stable, affordable electricity, not just on paper. Nigeria's power puzzle remains unsolved, but the pieces are shifting. And as states assert control and citizens demand fairness, one truth shines through. Electricity is not just a utility, it is dignity, development, and a nation's promise waiting to be fulfilled. Today on Good Morning Nigeria, electricity sector professionals, regulators, engineers, and policy minds will join us to explore the tariff tensions, the legal crossroads, and the road ahead.
Many thanks, Ibrahim and Hamidu, for that background report. Let's begin by introducing our guests just before we go into the conversation proper, and I'll start by introducing Lanre Elatuyi, who is an electricity market analyst. We thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right. Kunle Kola Olubio is President, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network. We thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Coming.
Good morning, Nigerians.
All right, and let's go over to our Kano studio. Dr. Abdurrahman Umar, Senior Academic Department of Electrical Engineering, Center for Renewable Energy and Sustainability Transition, Bayero University in Kano, and he joins us from our Kano studio. Dr. Umar, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you. And also Dr. Sam Amadi, former chairman, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, and he's also joining us via Zoom. Dr. Amadi, it's a pleasure, and we do appreciate your joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
I'd really like to start with you, and I think everyone will agree for us to start with you for obvious reasons. You have been at the helm of affairs at NERC, and you know there have been conversations around what has happened in Enugu, and everyone is talking about it. But one thing that has come out is the issue of constitutional responsibilities between NERC and states, electricity regulatory commissions. I'm just wondering if you could just put it into perspective, the scope of the responsibility of states regulatory commissions within the 2023 Electricity Act.
Well, thank you and good morning. First, let me say that I don't like to attend this kind of program because I've been on the road because of his NTA and my love and respect. So that's why I agreed to. I'm supposed to be speaking the rest a couple of minutes in a keynote as keynote speaker somewhere. But again, back to the question. First, I think oftentimes Nigerians fail to pay attention to what is going on, and when it happens, they start, what the Americans will call Monday morning quarterbacking. We play a match on a Sunday in the American football, so-called soccer football. Then the Monday morning that's not goal. Monday morning start to quarterback, try to defend a goal score. Now, let's get it very clear. The first is the Constitution that was amended, I think, under President Buhari, who signed into law the Constitutional Amendment, and that Constitutional Amendment removed the restriction that was on state governments in the previous Constitution. And that restriction was that state governors cannot get involved in regulating either through elections, through the law or through the regulator, anything that concerns network, transmission, and distribution. Of course, the states could be involved in generation, the states could perhaps invest in distribution, but they cannot regulate, make laws as state assemblies or as a regulator regarding network. So that constitution removed it, and therefore states have all the powers, together with the federal government, to regulate all value chain of electricity. Now, the Electricity Act followed that through by us to following through in that language with a little caveat that when it concerns electricity that is going through the interstate, which makes sense, no state can regulate interstate trade. And secondly, if it involves the use of TCN, then the state cannot regulate everything because it can't regulate TCN. So that's the state of play right now, constitutionally. And the Electricity Act also says that if a state enacts a new law on electricity market, sets up a regulator, two conditions, then it can apply to NEC to get exemption, and NEC will grant it the exemption after some time and due process. So about 9 of those states have done that. I have been advising a couple of them. And what is clear now, I think the latest was, if I understand very well, Niger State, Imo, Enugu, Anambra, Abia, Ondo, Ekiti, Lagos, Edo, and a couple of one or two others. Okay, because this is what it means. It means that they are responsible now to fix everything about generation, distribution, and transmission of their own assets. And the same law now says to transition this new process, the DISCOs, who are regional monopolies, what we call private monopolies, we now have to create subsidiary companies for each of those states that want to opt out. So if you are in Abuja, as we are here now, and let's say Niger State, of course, Niger State is opting out. Niger State opts out. Then Abuja Disco will convert its Niger operation into a separate company, a subsidiary called whatever, let's say Gorara Power Company. So that Korea Power Company will, because that makes, for the purpose of regulation, will be a unique company, even though it shares corporate and share relationship with Enugu Disco, Abuja Disco as the owner. That's so that will happen in Enugu. With that, therefore, Enugu Disco has to fashion its distribution regulation within what the so-called main power, or whatever they call it, now offers. So my understanding is that Enugu Disco has been the most thorough, of course, of all the discos. They have been the one that set up, in my view, the best transition. They had, most of the guys were from NEC, both the chairman, the commissioners, I think all of them, apart from one, came with people who work under me. And they were somewhat talking to me. And I think what they did was to take the wholesale tariff. Now, this is important. Generation, because generating companies are not state-specific. They were companies that were licensed by NEC for the whole Nigeria. And we have only one national grid before now. We had power from each of the generation companies shared to different centers, states, their disco centers. And so this power comes from the national grid. So what Enugu has done is to recognize the tariff that NEC has set for distribution. They didn't alter it from what they told me. And what they have done now is to ask the main power company that is now serving them from the old Enugu Disco to give it its own costs. So they said that the company gave them, let's say, 10 billion. I'm not precise. And they now asked them to break it down, which is what regulators should do. They broke down the cost and they discovered that after breakdown, the real cost comes to, let's say, 6 billion, just estimation, not accurate. Okay, so Enugu Disco claimed that they have not used that 6 billion as recoverable. Now, this is the way we do tariff. You don't just fix a price. It doesn't matter what the price is in the world, or what is reasonable or not reasonable. What the regulator does is to say, what are the real, prudently incurred costs you are using to serve your customer? If they get that cost and it is prudent, relevant, they will then put it into your revenue requirement, and that means this is what you will recover from different customers. That's number one. So if Enugu is right, Abuja Disco, mainframe Disco gave them cost that is less than what they estimated or what they told them was their cost. So they use it and gave them recovery. So that means the cost in Enugu does not necessarily have to be the same as the national cost, because the price in Enugu should not be the same, because the cost of serving Enugu customers does not necessarily have to be the same as the cost of serving Imo or serving Niger. Why? Customer density, customer number, type, topology, invested assets, new investments, they will differ from state to state. So that's number one. Number two is this. If there are components of this tariff that is subsidy, which is part of the debate from NEC and others, and the Minister of Power. So if there's a subsidy element, the question is, what's the nature of that subsidy? If it's a subsidy that the federal government, in its eminent domain, as the father of all, has put in the system, and Enugu takes advantage, that is legitimate as long as the federal government has not pulled out that subsidy. Again, if it's a subsidy paid from a federation account, which means an account that Nigerian states own jointly, then Enugu is entitled and the federal government cannot exclude them. But if it's a tariff, a subsidy that is discretionary, meaning it's the federal account, federal government uses of money, the federal government can decide to say Enugu can continue to enjoy it, because that, by the way, the federal government owns overriding responsibility for citizens in Enugu state for access to reliable electricity. So this is I'm now putting both my regulatory hat and my constitutional scholar hat to tell you that this is how it works. So This therefore means the Enugu will be right to plug into that subsidy, assuming there's a subsidy, and use it to also reduce their own tariff. And the third and last point is this. The discos, I think, are panicking and trying to use, of course, they are entitled to use lobby and all this strategy. The fear is that there may be a domino effect, which is what happens when incident like this creates contagion. So different states will say, oh, this looks nice. Enugu has done what NEC cannot do. It has reduced the tariff for e-citizen. People are happy. So we can do the same. And they begin to look and copy Enugu's methodology. And that might mean that the discos will end up not having enough revenue. Now, this is where the ministry's leadership come in. The leadership here will be two things. One, to make sure, to look at the methodology and get some real experts, not talking heads, not people who are close to the minister or people who support party and all that, and say, help us go through these methodologies. Are they methodologies that are cogent? Are they a right methodology? Would they really allow recovery of cost? Because if there is under recovery, then there will be under provision of service, and down the line, there will be collapse of the industry, and the federal government, as the one that has ultimate responsibility for the Nigerian citizens, need to assert itself and say, no, we can't allow a part of this country to have its grid collapse because of poor methodology. So the federal government should be doing referral, review, and once they're satisfied that the states have followed the fundamentals of energy pricing and that they are really doing what they ought to do, they should not give any heed to disco hoopla, because that's part of the business. The business is to make more money, most times at the expense of citizens. And the second thing the federal government will then therefore do is to now look at the federal level, what are the things that are causing cost escalation that probably Enugu has made savings on? Because when I was next chairman in 2014, I was abused. And they said, oh, I want to help PDP election, 2015 PDP election. When I said, look, let's zero out the collection losses, because it cannot have a tariff that is increased by 300, 200%. It's a shock, never allowed in the industry. And I said, we're going to put your collection at zero. You come and prove to us that each of your elements that you claim are right, current, coherent, and cogent, and proven. If they've allowed me, if it wasn't politics, and I've gone ahead, we would have been talking about this level of tariffs, because sometimes there are too many inefficiencies that the discos build into their model. And because we want to incentivize investment, customers pay inefficient price. So efficiency at two levels. Customers should pay only efficient price, which is a price that is efficiently incurred to serve customers. This should also be awarded efficient cost, which is cost that they incurred efficiently, not when they carry all their own losses, the things they could control. Some bogus losses are told to the consumer. And that's what I tried to do. But when the new government came in, they blackmailed me, and then they asked us to reverse. Well, we reversed because we have to pay the government. And that's why we have, sometimes some of the figures are crazy. So,
all right, Dr. Amadi, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Amadi, for that elaborate opening shot. I get it sets further background to this conversation. But let's cross over to Kanu, where we have Dr. Abdurrahman Umar. And I'm wondering, in your opinion, from where you stand, would you say that the Electricity Act anticipated this sort of conflict? And do you think that states can actually regulate grid power sustainably?
Having me. Yeah, to be candid, the Electricity Act anticipated some development, positive development, and as well anticipated some clashes like that, or like what happened in Enugu regarding EERC, that is Enugu Regulatory Commission. You see, the purpose of Regulatory Act 2023 is to allow state to regulate the activities of electricity within their jurisdiction. For what reason? For improved delivery, one. Number two, for more investment attraction. Number three, for improved efficiency. So you see, if the state can regulate its electricity while not achieving these three fundamental reasons for that act, I think that then we can say there's a problem. You see, that was why a year ago, when this Electricity Act was enacted, I advocated for state not only to consider the regulation aspect, but also to add the investment promotion aspect of it. In fact, I suggested states to call it State Regulatory and Investment Commission instead of just State Regulatory Commission. Yes, the aspect or the wing of regulatory aspect can be handled by NEC. Then the other aspect of investment could be handled by other relevant body. My reason for that is that I envisage this kind of clashes. You know, the state may be carried away by the regulatory power or the autonomy they got through this act, and emphasizes more on the regulatory aspect, forgetting about the consequences of the investment. For me, yes, under this kind of high inflation and widespread of low income context faced in the country, reducing tariff is paramount to every citizen in the country. However, in my opinion, such kind of act should be allowed to occur naturally. There is a way. For instance, the state, after having the autonomy or the power to regulate and encourage investment in the electricity sector, they can look at possible ways of reducing this kind of burden on the general populace. For instance, they can start embarking on investment to go for possible deployment of what we call in engineering distributed generation. Distributed generation is a kind of generation whereby the power of all electricity is generated closer to the point of use. By doing that, definitely you are cutting down the cost of transporting the electricity power via national grid from far away places to your locality. You know, this is just similar to like a petroleum product we have at filling stations. If you are in Maiduguri or going to be far away from the refineries, possibly the cost of your landing cost of your electricity may likely go up or higher than what is obtainable in Lagos because of that cost of transportation. So now, having the generation instead of at a far away places, having it closer to users, definitely the cost of that transportation, which is also embedded in the general tariff of the electricity, could be reduced. You can see this is one aspect. Second aspect, still from the aspect of investment, competitive environment can be created by bringing more investment into the state across the generation, transmission, and distribution. You know, the act not only allow us to generate, but also allow us to do the transmission aspect. For companies can do it, individual actors as well can do it. The only thing now, you know, the transmission has to be at a secondary level, meaning the transmission has to be within the state. So you can see by having multiple operators in the state, definitely natural competition will bring up natural cost reduction. In other words, the tariff may go down. You see, now another aspect, the state that can also look at it in a near future instead of embarking on this regulatory tussle of power is to look at the other alternative renewable energy. You see this policy, when they are bringing this policy, definitely we know from the policy aspect, because it's the policy that gives room for all this regulation. We know right from the beginning that the policy is going to be unique to each state, depending on the geography of that state. I mean, the resources the state is having. For instance, like now, Lagos, most of it is talking about gas generation, gas distribution, and the rest, while places like Kano or state like Kano or Katsina is talking about solar or renewable energy. So you can see all these peculiarities are applied to this sector. Also, the capacity of the people, the affordability of the citizen in the state is also a matter. Also, the economic stress is going on, and the economic power of such state is also contributory reason to look at. So, and this can be seen from the policy developed so far by some various states. You can see each one has its own component of policy, what we call the problem aspect or or what we call the policy statement aspect of the policy document. Yes, for the implementation could be similar, and also for the state electricity law could be similar, but this kind of policy that we are talking about that will bring changes of tariff and other things are what we call developmental policy, and which could be unique to every state. So to really speak in 2023 Electricity Act envisage that and really accept that uniqueness of each state, and eventually, definitely, this is not a backlash, to be candid. This is just a beginning, because in a near future, we are going to see different tariffs across different states because of the reason I mentioned. For instance, the resources, if Kano will be able to be producing its power or electricity at average of 100 naira per kilowatt hour, definitely places like Lagos, because their major source is gas or fossil fuels, their rate could be around maybe 150 kilowatt per hour. So you can see eventually there could be these differences, and these differences has come to stay. It's not going, it's part of the development, and we envisage that. In fact, coincidentally, what will tell you that coincidentally now, currently at the National Assembly, there are things ongoing. The same act is being amended. It's tagged Electricity Act, Electricity Bill 2025 is being amended, and part of the recommendation is coincidental to what is happening in Enugu. That will tell you, yes, the act has foreseen that, because number one, part of it is they are talking about the framework for subsidy, which comes under the item of PCAF, that is Power Consumer Assistance Fund. They also talk about overlapping or fragmented regulation, which comes under federal and state harmonization framework. So through this, they are trying to create a national forum for electricity, whereby state and federal regulators will be harmonizing any upcoming events and resolving any conflicts arising. So you can see this problem has already been envisaged. And also part of it, they are also recommending National Electric Power Policy Council, which will be overseeing high level of policy alignment in the country. So you can see concurrently, while this event is going on about Enugu and the rest, and the federal and the state National Assembly, this kind of amendment is going on to tackle most of 90% of the problems mentioned above. Thank you very much.
Dr. Umar, thank you. We'll get back to you in a moment. We understand that Dr. Mahdi, of course, would soon be leaving us. So let's quickly put the next question across to him so that he can, respond to some of the constitutional and operational framework and clarify some of those things for us before we get into the nitty-gritty. And it's all clear that what is in contention really is not probably, I don't know, I stand to be corrected, not the methodology or the model for which the Enugu State Regulatory Commission arrived at the amount, the tariff reduction rate. But what the NEC is querying is whether or not the state regulatory commissions can, reduce tariff, can regulate, and if it does so, whether NEC is asking Enugu State Regulatory Commission in this instance, to be responsible for the subsidy gap and all that. But Dr. Mahdi, if I get what you said earlier on right, that in the amended part of the Constitution or rather of the Act, that the Constitution did not allow or does not allow states to regulate the distribution aspect of, in the electricity production chain. And I'm wondering if that is so, how do you now then explain the 2023 Electoral Act signed into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which gave states the autonomy, the power to generate, to distribute, but not to transmit, if I'm wrong? yourself.
Okay, yeah. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. I can go ahead.
Yes, please.
So I said before the 2023 Electricity Act came into being, the 1999 Constitution did not allow states to regulate distribution, generation, or anything. Now, the new Constitution signed by Buhari now allowed them, and so Tinubu signed a consequential Electricity Act. So today, both the Electricity Act and the Constitution are aligned. They allow states to do all this. I don't think NEC can make that kind of argument because it will appear very illiterate in my view and elementary. Enugu State has a right to fix its own tariff. Even if they like, they can fix it dangerously bad. It's a constitutional right of the state, not of the Enugu regulator or NEC. And by the way, NEC has no constitutional authority. NEC is exercising the constitutional authority of the federal government, the Section 5 power of the president. That's what NEC exercises. This is what I teach in administrative law. So NEC is an agent of President Tinubu to man the electricity sector. Enugu regulator is an agent of the Enugu state government. And President Tinubu's Electricity Act has now aligned with a new constitutional order by authorizing Enugu State to do what it is doing. So no debate. Enugu State has a right to design, define its own tariff. Now, this is the only problem, complication. There are what we call shared services, and that's where I think the ministry do a great job. They didn't walk through a transition to help each of the states understand. For example, TCN is still a common service. When I gave a lecture, TCN MD then was so happy that I brought it to them and said, TCN is now like any other company owned by the federal government. It can work with the states, and the states will pay fees that NEC has mandated. So what Enugu or any state can do is to take those fees for TCN and put it in their tariffs, because they can't regulate TCN. They can only buy services from TCN. They can even have a contract with TCN, and TCN can even give them a lower price. That's fair. So the same with the generating companies now. Or the states create their own generation. States can, if they have their own generation plan, they can remove themselves from the federal generator, except the fact that there's a contract. So there are two elements, law and contract. There's a contract between Enugu Disco and the national system operator, or the embed, to the PPA, power purchase agreement, to buy power. So as long as the Enugu Disco buys that power and sends a component of that power to Enugu, Enugu will recognize and pay that wholesale price. That's the end. When it comes to Disco, the Discos are now subsidiaries doing their own business in each of those states. So the Enugu Disco that is now called Main Power is now an independent company deemed to be licensed by Enugu regulator. So they're going to give them their cost, and Enugu will freely set up the tariffs. It doesn't concern NEC. How does it concern NEC? NEC has no more jurisdiction over Enugu. If there's power outage in Enugu, it's not NEC's problem. It is Enugu Disco, Enugu regulator's problem. If people are overpaid, it's not Tinubu's problem. Only that Tinubu, as president of Nigeria, can talk to the governor and say, look, this is causing trouble. Yes, that's at the level of governor to president. But at the level of NEC, NEC has no role. In fact, NEC allowed the train to move and sail through. Then start, after it has gone, to start talking about, control. NEC has nothing to do here. What NEC has to do here is to keep on doing the wholesale tariff that it does for the generators that are now collectively owned. But the generators are selling power to these states that now have their own independent regulator and independent power sellers. So the component of generation is fully captured. Enugu has not altered it, so there should be no problem. What Enugu has done is to reduce the retail tariff and abolish so-called bandwidth. Now, again, let's get back to those, whatever I call it, category A that people pay for. That is not, it's NEC that designed it to recover money. Anyone can choose not to have that band A, band B, band C, and create a different customer class. That's what it means to be an independent regulator with the power that the Constitution has given to a state. And it's unconstitutional for NEC or anybody to try to stop a power given to a state to self-regulate itself on distribution. So as long as anyone decides to say, we're not going to charge band A people this amount, it means that the real cost of serving that band is less in Enugu than what the NEC. I don't want to say whether NEC costs. I have my issue. I've already addressed it to NEC officials. I don't think band A, band B made a lot of sense to me, but it's their choice. They have the power, they did it. So Enugu, it can't force the same pricing on Enugu. It's elementary. It can't do that. There's no constitutional or regulatory logic that says that if the price of power for this customer class in Abuja is X, it should be the same in Kano. And by the way, in America everywhere in the world.
Dr. Sam Amadi, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Of course, you are emphasizing the independence, the significant independence that the states have to regulate the power that comes to them. We thank you very much. But let me get to Lanre Latuyi. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thanks so much.
Now, what exactly drives tariff hikes? For instance, in Band A.
There are two sides of a coin to this discussion. So depending on which perspective you're trying to talk from. Let me correct an impression. The issue of Band A is not arbitrary. It's not just something that just came out of nowhere. It is because of the fact that the regulator, in conjunction with federal government, was trying to reduce the burden of subsidy on the consumer, on the federal government. The subsidy burden for 2024 was about 3.2 trillion naira until the introduction of Band A tariff. So that Band A tariff lowered that subsidy burden to about 1.9 trillion naira.
In other words, it wasn't service-driven, it was just cost-driven.
Yeah, it was service-driven in the sense that there was an SLA for discos to be able to make power available for at least 20 hours every day. And that mechanism to actually make sure that if you don't provide that number of hours, maybe for 7 consecutive days, that feeders can actually be put down to Band B. So that's just by the issue of Band A tariff. So let me talk about this issue of tariff by Enugu, main power from Enugu State, and what NEC has said. This is it. The Electricity Act 2023 granted states to regulate power generation, transmission, and distribution. That is the law. The law is quite different from the practicability of it, of the operation of power system. So the question is, yeah, you'll be granted the right to do that, but is it feasible? Is it practicable?
But the law is meant to be obeyed.
The law is meant to be obeyed, but is it practicable in the real sense given our reality in the country today? So, and what is happening in this issue of tariff, what is causing a problem is just about incorporation of subsidy in Enugu State tariff, in power tariff. What Enugu State has done is the fact that, in our tariff, we are not going to recognize the full cost of electricity, which is the cost-reflective tariff. Right now in the sector, the weighted average price in the wholesale market is 112 naira. What Enugu State has recognized in their tariff is just about 45 naira, leaving a shortfall of about 60-something naira to be borne by the federal government. So, and this is what NEC has responded. We are trying to move away from subsidy regime. It's no longer practicable. The federal government has said times without number that we don't really have money to pay subsidy. So Enugu State, now that you'll be granted autonomy, recognize the full costs in the wholesale market. This is it. Though the states have the power to regulate on generation, transmission, and distribution, they don't have that facilities now. Until states are able to have their own power system, that means the generation plants, the dispatch and the control center, the transmission line, then it is at that point that you can say that they have their own electricity market. Right now, that's I hear that's a lot that states now regulate electricity market. No, what they regulate right now is just the distribution segment of the electricity value chain. And if you look at the National Integrated Electricity Policy, it is stated there that NEC will be regulating the wholesale market, states will be regulating the distribution or the retail segment. So right now, the wholesale market, what is the wholesale market? The wholesale market is the centralized pool where all the generators in Nigeria pool their energy being generated. That is still being regulated by NEC. So what NEC is saying that now is that, oh, if you want to come to this market regulated by NEC, you have to pay the full cost of generation, which is 112 naira, and that has to be incorporated in your tariff. So, but Enugu is saying that, oh, but there's this subsidy being provided by the federal government. Though this subsidy is not cash-backed, the subsidy projection for 2023 is about 2.3 trillion naira. What is appropriated in the budget is probably about 900 billion, not cash-backed, and there's no assurance that that subsidy is going to come. So that subsidy sits in the book of the GENCOs as receivables. So it's the GENCOs that bears this burden of subsidy that is not being paid. Now we heard of 4 trillion naira that the federal government is going to pay. If federal government clears that debt today, in the next 2 or 3 years, that is 4 trillion naira will be accumulated again until we move away from this market regime that we operate in the sector. So NEC is saying that we want to do away with subsidy. Enugu is saying that no, the federal government is still paying subsidy in quotes. So instead of you recognizing 45 naira in your tariff, recognize the full cost, the weighted average wholesale price of 112 naira. And Enugu State say, no, I'm not going to do this. As long as other Nigerians, in quote, are still enjoy this subsidy being provided in quote by the federal government. So that is the bone of contention.
All right, but
sorry, Victor. I was just going through, the explanations given by Enugu State Regulatory Commission. Just a point. It said breaking this across the various tariff bands means that band A will pay 160, while other bands B, C, and D and E are frozen. He said band A at 160 will help main power to manage rate shock, and if the subsidy is removed, savings will assist them in stabilizing the tariff over a defined period of time. Then it went on to say, nevertheless, at all times, the tariff will be cost reflective and will not require any state subsidy.
Thank you very much. Before coming to your studio, some of us were reluctant to speak on this issue. I know the battle I had to go through with WADA and so many of you start to convince us because the privatization of the electricity sector, the whole essence of it is to de-risk the electricity ecosystem. And what Enugu Electricity Regulatory Commission has done is to further increase the exposure of the market to risk. We're talking about investors' apathy in the Nigerian power sector. You see, we have a model of regulatory ecosystem. The intention of the federal parliament, you see, Enugu State is crying more than the bereaved. The intention of the federal parliament, the Electricity Act you're talking about, the amendment of the Constitution was initiated and driven by the federal arm of the Federation. That's the National Assembly. They were the drivers of this amendment, and we call it executive bill or whatever. They were the drivers, and they gave this liberty to Enugu State government. So Enugu State government's position is as if those who gave them the leverage do not even wish them well. The federal government has been taking a lot of burden, and the sense in it is that federal government feels that in the concept of devolution of power, if some responsibility are given to the state, they could micro-manage some sector effectively. It's not just electricity. You know, there are key aspects of the economy that were hitherto under exclusive lists, like inland waterway and what have you. And what we have done in the current dimension is to make sure the state had the leverage. Where are we coming from? Between 1979 to 1983, Dr. Sam Mbakwe of Imo State created what we call the IPP. Amaraku, the old Imo State covers the present Imo State and Abia State. Amaraku IPP, Independent Power Plant. Students of school age, their parents were levied 10 naira then as contribution to the investment in the sector. And in 2011, there are 14 IPPs, independent power plants, that came to Nigeria, investors willing to invest, and they raised bond for federal government to encourage them to invest. Because of the bureaucratic bottleneck of MBET, Ministry of Finance, I was directly involved, negotiating with bilateral, multilateral department of Ministry of Finance, and they were frustrated. So what Enugu State government need to do is to replicate what Sam Mbakwe has done. Create the market first. In an agro value chain, you say from farm to gate. The farm, you have to have a farm before you now have the barn. Enugu State government, what they need to do first is to make sure that, like any other state, create institutional framework, legal framework, and regulatory framework. That is the ecosystem.
Which framework? They already have a regulatory framework.
What we are saying, the electricity itself, if you look at the petroleum subsector, distribution of petroleum products, if Enugu State government, for example, legislates on the price of pump prices of petrol, let's use it in local parlance, and say, okay, we want our pump price to be 120 naira as against 800 or 900 naira. That means that the petroleum tanker and marketers will not deliver petroleum product to Enugu State. And who will suffer? My constituents, which is consumer. Now what Enugu State government is trying to do through its delegated agent, as amplified by Dr. Sam Ahmadi, is to prevent electricity consumers in Enugu from enjoying great source power supply.
How?
You cannot give
because they say this is in the interest of
no. This is political
consumers.
No, we see Enugu, just like Dr. Sam Ahmadi has said.
Yes,
Dr. Sam Ahmadi is a politician, is a gubernatorial aspirant, and we can read through the line that as a politician,
an academic.
Let's put. It's my very good friend. Let's put it this way.
No. Hold on.
What Enugu?
Hold on, please. He's on this program not as a politician. And he has not spoken as a politician. He has only answered our question. So I think.
It's either on the two sides.
He has prerogative, of his.
Okay, let's address.
So let me ask you. Just let me ask you. Now, the Enugu State Regulatory Commission says, look, we have reduced this tariff on distribution, not on any other, for which they have constitutional powers to do that. What is wrong in that? Is it that it is wrong, or that it is putting the cart before the horse?
Exactly. You see, I just laid a background that in Plateau State, for example, maybe in the next few days, I'm supposed to be in the Plateau to do a further study. In Plateau State, since 1954, we have the NESCO, and we have what later became Jos Electricity Distribution Company. For over 4 decades, NESCO and Jos Disco, as it were.
Yes, sorry, Kunle, I think we need to talk. Yes.
Let's quickly get to Dr. Sam Ahmadi before he leaves. I understand you will leave at the break in a few minutes. I'm just worried about what regulatory risks that you see ahead, given what is playing out now and the existing law.
Thank you. So let me take about one by one. I've been speaking here as an expert, not as a politician. By the way, I have been a special advisor to Senate President over 10 years ago. Having worked as special advisor for Foreign Affairs over 7 years ago, and chairman of NEC for 5 years, professor of law, constitutional law, administrative law from Harvard Law School. I think I earned some respect on this subject matter. So I'm not here. I'm not from Enugu State, by the way, and I won't run election. I'm from Imo State. So the point is very clear. Look, I'm happy that the hosts, you guys perhaps seem to understand this more than the experts. In Nigeria, people make a lot of noise, what they don't know. Now, I have 3 issues and questions to answer that question. First, the other panelist said something. He says, there is a generation tariff. Let me say it again. Let's stop confusing what people. Enugu Disco has accepted wholly, entirely, the generation tariff that NEC has given. It's not altering it. So what's the problem? It has not altered transmission tariff because it doesn't have snow power. What's the problem? What it has done, and I want to make this clear, there is nothing called cost-efficient tariff in the air. I don't understand why Nigerians don't want to learn. Cost reflective means a particular cost. So, for example, the cost of serving Kano and serving Abuja can never be the same from a distribution perspective. Because it's a national, look, I'm speaking as an expert, PhD. I don't want, nobody should challenge me. You can't serve the same cost everywhere. Look at America. I lived in Boston, Massachusetts. Prices of electricity, okay, let's make it very clear. What is distribution cost? Distribution cost has 3 components. It has CapEx, capital cost. It has variable cost, O&M, operation maintenance cost, variable and fixed. All these costs, I give an example. NTA is here in Abuja. The cost of running NTA in Lagos and Abuja can't be the same. Very elementary things. What happens is because NEC is regulating a national market. Every disco, and I give an example, look at the cost for tariffs that NEC does for all the discos. They are different, there are variations. And I'm going to pay 1 million if, as a fee, fine, if any NEC staff tests anything different. NEC does tariff. That's what's called cost efficient. They'll ask the disco to submit their costs. So the cost for Enugu is slightly different from the cost from Lagos, even though the NEC own this thing. What I'm trying to say is this. If Enugu, and that's why I will ask all of us, everybody, all the experts, go and get their methodology. The problem with Nigerian debate is that everybody's an expert, but nobody tries to read. I would like NEC to come and explain to NTA that we have reviewed Enugu methodology, just like NEC has a methodology. That methodology did not capture X, Y, Z. Therefore, it underpriced electricity. If the methodology is what I know and what I have received from them and what I've heard from them, that the disco, which is what NEC does not fix, NEC is not a spirit. We don't fix tariff through Holy Spirit or through intuition. NEC writes to the discos, send us your cost profile. They give to NEC. NEC sits in his office, review those costs and approve. We call it revenue requirement. Approved revenue requirement. That means NEC is saying that you are going to serve 5,000 megawatts with 5 billion, made up of capital costs, made up of variable O&M, operation maintenance costs, made up of fixed O&M. NEC looks at them, run the numbers, and they said approved recovery. NEC now asks them to go and design how would they recover the money. And so they give you different customer. Again, there are cross subsidies, meaning some customer class can subsidize others based on NEC. 2 issues here are very clear. One, the subsidy issue. Assuming there's a subsidy on this tariff, and this Enugu state government is saying we are going to free ride on federal government, this is now constitutional theory and administrative law. Then it's the federal government who say, no, you can't take advantage of our tariff. And therefore, Enugu, take that out and put in their own money. Enugu has to pass it to their customer, or the state government can put in their money. Now, this is the principle, and I will leave on this. The principle of tariff making is simple. If you don't want to pass any cost to customers, for many reasons, for example, in Europe, there are subsidies because they can pay it. In fact, the Ukraine-Russian war cost Europeans to put billions because they don't want to be exposed to Russia, and therefore the solar and other renewable cannot generate enough. They put a subsidy to reduce. So subsidy is a fiscal policy element. The federal government decides how much they can put in based on their resources and the burden they want to pass to their customer. So if the federal government pulls away their subsidy, like they are saying, they want to phase it out, then Enugu has to take responsibility to say, either we'll put the subsidy or we'll pass it on to customer. So first elementary knowledge, cost-efficient tariff is not a number. It means the tariff that actually allows an operator to recover his prudent cost. It's not fixed in the air. So I agree with them. You must have cost efficient. What Enugu is saying is that based on the cost that the district has given us, I would like our panelists to also ask Mon Fri, send to us what is sent to Enugu. Let's run the numbers. Enugu says they told us that their cost is A. We said, okay, break it down. They broke it down. It came to A minus 5. Why would you give somebody A if their real cost is A minus 5? I don't know how to, as a teacher, I'm trying to explain it very clear. So I'm not supporting Enugu or federal government. I was an ex-chairman and I'm saying that if Enugu missed out any element of the real cost, then we can query Enugu because that will lead to problems. But if
Dr. Madi, we thank you. You want to, yes.
We have to let Dr. Madi go because you have another program and because we have to also go on break. So we would like to thank you very much. We will take the conversation from here. We wish you could stay till the end of the program, but we'll take the conversation from where you have left off. So Dr. Sam Amadi, former chairman of the NERC, we thank you very much for your time and the thoughts that you have brought, the perspectives you have brought to this program today. We'll pause here for a break, and Good Morning Nigeria will continue after this break. Please.
Food security is national security. And where there is hunger, then the insecurity in that particular country will continue to remain. And so it is in everybody's interest, not just the government interest, but the private sector as well, to ensure that we have a very good agricultural policy that drives sustainable growth and then progress, of course, in its implementation. One of the things that we were doing and we stopped doing as a country is the operations of the storage facilities, the storage infrastructure, all the way to logistics, talking about farm mechanization, the vehicles that we need. The feeder routes, the construction of the feeder routes. The feeder routes are so called because they are not A-trunk roads. They are farmstead roads. I believe that if a considerable investment can go into the construction of feeder routes, then our machines, our transportation equipment would be a lot more efficient. There will be a lot of uptime, less downtime, and we will be able to, on good time, transport our produce from farm gate to either factory gate or market gate. Let us look at how we can make a dual use of our farm mechanization equipment so that when a tractor in the planting season takes a plow, a harrow, and it's able to prepare land, during the harvest and post-harvest season, you should be able to attach a bucket to that tractor to be able to take it to the nearest center where it can then be taken on. These are short and medium-term measures that we can take to boost productivity. We need to ensure that agriculture is practiced in the most acceptable and modern way possible. We need to make sure that the science of agriculture is indeed science. In other words, we are able to apply methods, we are able to apply resources into grain agriculture, so that when we are fully migrated away from hoes and cutlasses and all of these menial tasks, which, by the way, have formed some impression in the mind of these young people, they would then be able to see how enjoyable and how profitable agriculture can be. We've seen a lot of digitization of the sector. There is digitization of agriculture today. We have precision agriculture. We also have climate smart agriculture. All of these, of course, hydroponics, greenhouse agriculture, and all of these are actually a better way, a more excellent way of producing food in an organic manner, but a lot more smartly.
All right, welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Nigeria, and your watch, of course, we're having a conversation on the latest developments within the electricity tariff, processes in Enugu. So we have Dr. Umar, who, of course, is in our Kano studio. Dr. Umar, we've let you sitting idle for a while. I'm just wondering, in all of this, if the high Band A tariff is actually the one that is giving the discos, the avenue to generate revenue, and now that, for instance, in Enugu, that band has been reduced from 200 and something to 160, it will mean that we will have to begin to look at other ways of assisting, the discos to be able to, shore up their revenue. And in this regard, I'm also looking at the fact that most homes don't even have the infrastructure, like Kunde here said, in terms of metering.
Truly speaking, that shortfall has a serious is going to have bring a serious impact into the system. Actually, you see, the shortfall is not actually supposed to start coming now. It's not a good time to start exposing the system to this kind of risks. I think the system, especially the state market itself, is not ripe enough to start facing this kind of risks in terms of investment. So in other words, while we commend the Enugu State Regulatory Commission for taking that bold step, which shows they have really understood the real regulatory power asserted to them. And also we have to commend them for, in fact, being the first state in the country to really start operationalizing the avenues of 2023 Electricity Act in order to make progress in the electricity sector. However, that shortfall, instead of the ERC to embark on this new regime of risking itself, I think, on the other hand, it should look at other sources in order to support the discourse in the state, in order not to have a liquidity crisis or any shortfall in the cash flow. Other sectors, as I said earlier, can be looked upon, such as bringing more investors into the state to create adequate liquidity in the state, so that the discourse will not start to cry over any possible. In other words, there is need for shock absorbers rather to be created in the electricity market first before starting exposing it to this kind of risks. So in other words, the discourse should work with the regulatory commission to see that investment in the sector is really enhanced, so that this kind of shortfall may not have a negative impact over their operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umar. Let me get back here in the studio. I saw you shaking your head vigorously when Dr. Amadi was speaking. But to take it away from Dr. Amadi, is the move by the Enugu State, the Electricity Regulatory Commission, economically sound, in your opinion, or it is a dangerous precedent?
I'm not going to answer categorically to that. It is the prerogative of the State Regulatory Commission of Enugu State to determine the end user's tariff. Nobody's debating that with them. I'm not going to debate that with them. So if they set the description, the end user's tariff at 20 naira, they have the power to do so. If they set it at 10 naira, they have the power to do so. I think the bone of contention here is that, and in response to Dr. Amadi said, I think it's not just being, maybe he doesn't have clarity enough about how tariffs are designed, and he's a professor of law, not a professor of power system or electricity market. So I studied market design, so I understand market very well.
But he ran the NERC, which is some
He
significant
ran
experience.
when it was an integrated vertical power system. When it was so, we are moving to a liberalized market, so it didn't run NEC when NEC is at this stage. So I'm not disputing that. I don't even want to talk about.
It's not here. We don't want to.
I don't want to talk about that. So is it economically sound for Enugu State to have done what they did? Like I said, it is in their power to set the tariff. Nobody has the right to contest that with them. Not me, not NEC, and not federal government. But what is being said is that you are seeing buying power at the wholesale market. You are still buying power, so you have to be able to buy power at the generation cost, the weighted average price in the wholesale market. The price is 112 naira. So what Enugu Discos did in that tariff modeling is to use the cost of generation to be 45 naira. So let's get this clarity. So the fact that he's saying that they've not touched generation cost is not totally true. So, but this is the argument from Enugu State. They said that there's something called disco remittance obligation, DRO. So disco remittance obligation is that portion that is every discos in Nigeria, this is the portion of the embed invoice that you have to pay. That is the generation cost. So, and that the federal government will not pay the outstanding in form of subsidy. So Enugu State is now saying, this is the logic behind it, that, okay, if we use 45 naira, our domestic disco remittance obligation, our remittance obligation is still going to be met by this tariff of 160 naira. So that's quite different from the fact that you have to pay the true cost of electricity at the wholesale market. So what Enugu Disco used in that tariff modeling is 45 naira, while the actual cost of electricity is 112 naira. So why did they use 145 naira? Because, in quote, they expect federal government to cover the subsidy. Subsidy. Yes. And why is that so? Because they feel that, oh, you cannot start subsidy removal on us. Every Nigerian is still enjoying subsidy. So why not Enugu too? Do you understand? And the claim that that subsidy is being paid from the federation account is quite wrong. Subsidy is not being paid from the federation account. So because that was another argument from the state that, oh, the federation account belongs to everybody, the 3 arms of the federal of the government. So we have a right to lay claim on it. So like I said, Enugu State has the power, the regulatory commission has the power to set tariff even at 0 naira. And nobody's going to dispute that. But when you're coming to the wholesale market, regulated by NEC, buy at 112 naira, no, not at 45 naira. Because the subsidy you are expecting the federal government is going to pay, that money is not available anywhere.
Landy, let's even be practical.
Yep.
You understand? Because Victor and I are neither here nor there. We're just, talking.
Yeah, I'm trying to make a very balanced view.
We're just talking for the people. So let us even look at the practical side of it. Even when the band A is at 200 and something, people are still not getting adequate supply of electricity. People are still paying, what do you call it? Estimated bills. Mm-hmm. People are not metered. So it falls back on the discourse. Now that the tariff has been reduced, their revenue shortfall, there'll be revenue shortfall. Will they be able to, have the strength to purchase from NBET, so as to, meet their revenue expectations?
Well, if I may respond to that,
yes.
The truth of the matter is that the move by Enugu Disco, like as said by earlier speakers, is quite commendable. There's something you call political bragado or regulatory grandstanding. Nobody will have known of the existence of Enugu Disco if not for this buhaha or this attention that they have caught to themselves. So on that note, jokingly you say it's quite commendable, but in reality, the consumers even want electricity tariff, as I speak here, to be 50 naira. But the truth of the matter is that we are running a federation where federal government through the NNPC have fixed the pump price, like I was trying to say, of petroleum product. If Kogi State government, for example, say they want the prices as empowered by law as a federation unit, they want the pump price of petroleum product to be 100 or 200 naira. That means the entire Kogi State will be starved of supply. So the great source, there are clear line of delineation and demarcation. You cannot give what you don't have. The Enugu state government or any other state government need to create the market. And in creating the market, you do economic mapping of the state. In Enugu state, you have abundant coal, clean coal, which is an energy source. You can use renewable energy source, which will be like Enugu state government can give licenses to a local government or senatorial district for sector-specific generation within the senatorial district or local government or intrastate. When they give licenses for generation, transmission, and distribution, they will set the parameters and KPI for intrastate electricity ecosystem. That has not been created. Consumers are a major concern while we advocated for the Constitution and the Electricity Act that we have to be in alignment was the mismatch that we're having. Now that the instruments have been given to the state, it is not for the state to be in conflict with federal institutions. There needs to be level of collaboration.
What are you doing about the metering to ensure? Because this issue of metering has always been there, and you are speaking for the consumer.
Yeah, in native parlance, Yoruba will say "Efetele palapalapa." We are leaving the cancerous element and dressing it. The issue of metering, the issue of poor investment in transmission grid. Take, for example, we have a 415 billion naira debt sitting on the neck of federal government. That has been dimensioned into 217 that federal government has agreed to pay to TCN. The electricity sector, as it were, is in a big mess financially. There are a lot we are not talking about. Two wheeling charges. Generation will generate, transmission will transmit, there are auxiliary costs and wheeling charges. 417 is a debt to TCN alone. Now, the Ministry of Finance through the federal government agreed to pay 217 billion. The DISCOs have not been able to pay the balance from where federal government stopped. We call it legacy debt, 217. The remaining of about 200 and something billion, the DISCOs have not been able to pay. Now, as we speak to you, the CAPES, OPES, the DISCOs now, they are technically insolvent. There is an agency of government, they acquire a lot of debt from fund intervention from federal government. You talk about electricity subsidy. Federal government gives promissory notes every year for electricity subsidy. Federal government has over the years not been able to prove that they have the capacity because of paucity of fund to pay the subsidy. So the generation company goes to the bank. And you know, in Nigerian bank, if you're going to take credit facility, you're going to take it at 35%. They go to the bank. There are several occasions I've been to the minister office, Fashola. I'll meet the likes of the investors in generation. You need to see them. They go and raise bond. And so what the state government need to do first, in not missing the step, create the electricity market. They need a partial risk guarantee. Any investors, being a Nigerian investor, partnering with a foreign investor, they need a partial risk guarantee. State cannot issue that partial risk guarantee because if a state take credit or loan from any development finance institution, they will be inked against the balance of Nigeria. That is our foreign reserve or foreign banks.
Which is why the National Assembly gets
like you have the case that the Ministry of Justice and Office of the NSA, one of the presidential jets was seized by a country because of a transaction between a state government involved and a foreign company. And all they need to do is garnishing order. against our investment, our bank account, or our property. So state cannot issue partial guarantee. It is African Development Bank and World Bank, and they will deal with the Ministry of Finance. Multilateral and this. So these are the things that the state need to do: get partial risk guarantee, put call option agreement, and all the collateralization and security that is needed for this. Electricity is sold. Is priced internationally.
We are fast running out.
So
of
what
time.
we are saying, the state needs to create the market, create the incentive for investment, create the enabling, do economic mapping. Each of the senatorial districts, which of the electricity sources based on energy mix is available. Now, who investors? They could be off-grid, they could be embedded, they could be sector-specific to cluster and agro, so that will provide my constituents the opportunity for alternative and competition. That is what the state needs to be focusing on.
Yes, we have to quickly take this. Yes. Solomon says he lives in Katankwe Extension. 3 weeks ago, he observes that the number of units for his area was reduced from 10. For 10,000 naira, he says it was reduced to 22 units. When he inquired, AEDC says Katankwe Extension has been switched to Band A. Unfortunately, since 3 weeks ago till now, we've hardly had light for 7 hours a day. And when the light comes, it is not stable. We keep taking and bringing it. They keep taking and bringing it every 30 minutes. Kindly tell AEDC to rectify this. We don't mind paying the bill, but they should give us the service. This is from Arabika in the poll, Lifecam Abuja. I appreciate the discussion. Thank Dr. Amadi for deep knowledge of the industry and education to listeners, broadens his knowledge. However, renewable energy is the best way to go, but government must support acquisition of the necessary tools to ensure efficient alternative power supply. And we also have Alade Tunde sending in his own contributions, but generally he says tariff may also be used as a form of taxation or revenue generation for the government. I know you have
all right, I have just a couple, and this first one is from Parts. What is the meaning of Band A, Band B? Some states pay higher, while some states pay less. As citizens, why should we have to pay for certain Band C, Band Z to have constant power supply? Okay? And from Columba, Umana in Uyo, he said, good morning to everyone in the studio. Estimated billing is a serious crime against humanity. In Itu Road, axis of Uyo in Akwa Ibom State, in a residential area, PHCN gives an average bill of 120,000 naira per month, even if you stay in a 2-bedroom flat. The fraud by marketers in PHCN must be checked. In some compounds, you see 2 separate bills that same month. Prepaid meters aren't available again. But I think he's making reference to PHCN. We're not in the era of PHCN.
PHC. Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company, PHDC.
PHDC.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, just a final note from you. I'm thinking that having secured the 2023 the Electricity Electoral Act. Electricity Act, thank you. Shouldn't the conversation now shift to this? We know the subsidy removal on fuel. We know what it has done. Shouldn't we also begin to have this conversation? You are an advocate, on this subsidy on electricity.
I didn't get that question clearly.
No, shouldn't we begin to brace up for subsidy removal on electricity?
Okay, let me just state it clearly. We've been talking about all the problems, but we're not talking about the solutions or the way forward. Like I said earlier,
he mentioned some.
It's either the federal government. It's either the federal government continues to pay the subsidy, or we brace up and we remove this subsidy. And we're going to remove this subsidy. That means we're going to transit this current market stage to wholesale competition electricity market, whereby let Gencos and Discos buy, let market forces determine the price. So until we get to the stage of competitive electricity market, this stage, the subsidy regime is still going to continue and it's not sustainable.
Thank you. And
particularly what is of great concern to us is that the aggregate of the input used in arriving at the tariff padded cost of gas and other padded costs that is embedded to the cost of the tariff, as it were. I want to align with the last speaker that the way to go is competition and alternative. If we have competition, if federal government through the custom allow importation of renewable energy equipment, solar panel, gives fiscal and non-fiscal incentive. If I have solar panel that is cheaper, as against the customs and FRS seeing this as source of generating revenue for federal government to bring down the cost of electricity and the total quantum that will come, that will come off grid, we have to give customers competitive prices. Yeah,
all right.
That's the way to go.
Kola Olubio, President, Nigerian Consumer Protection Network. We thank you very much for your time and your thoughts on the program. Let me also thank Dr. Abdurrahman Umar, who is a senior academic at Department of Electrical Engineering and Center for Renewable Energy and Sustainable Transition. He joined us from Kano. He teaches at the Bayero University, Kano. We thank you very much for your time and for your contributions on the program. And finally, from here, let me thank Larry Latui, who is an electricity market analyst. Thank you very much for your thoughts. Thank you much for coming.
Thanks so much.
And Dr. Sam Amadi, former chairman of the NERC, who left us much earlier. We thank you very much for joining us on this conversation. I guess it's something we may have to revisit someday.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to be part of this program tomorrow. I am Claire Adelabu Abdurazak.
And I am Victor Azu. We appreciate your company. Let's see you again tomorrow.